Hello, welcome to Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelovitz. Today we got another exciting episode. We're going to be talking about intergenerational leadership and how leaders can help different generations strengthen their communications and trust and work better together. And we want to look at how we can empower people to break free from their limiting beliefs. Today I have a special guest, Lysa Beltz. Lysa helps people ditch their self-doubt, bust through their limiting beliefs, and really embrace who they really are. She's the host of a show, Unspeakable Uplift, where she talks about real-life strategies and inspiring stories. Lysa motivates people to face life's ups and downs and build a mindset to thrive. And Lysa is a great example of how we can teach intergenerational leadership, because all of these things tie back into that. And it's really important to understand how what you are projecting and what is inside of you can help you be a better leader, especially as we talk about many times on this show of the intergenerational teams. So after a message from our sponsor, Lysa Beltz will be joining us as our guest on Bridging of Ages. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Bridging of Ages. My guest today is Lysa Beltz. Hello, Lysa. Welcome.
Good morning, Dan. How's it going?
Very good. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm really pleased to be here.
Yeah, today we're talking about intergenerational leadership. And in order to lead into that, I wanted to get a little idea of what you do for people when you're coaching. And I saw that you really try to empower people to break free from their limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to, if we could talk a little bit about how you get people to start to look internally on those things and how they can start to break free from that. Because I think it really ties into, for people to be a better leader, they really have to understand themselves first.
I obviously 100% agree with that. And, doing that inner work is sometimes really challenging. And so one of the first things we have to do with people is to begin to get them self-aware. And some people, it comes naturally. Some people have to really work at it. Some people are almost not conscious enough to be willing to go there. And so one of the things I often do with people is use some kind of a personality profile test just to get some data points. And my approach to it is that personality profiles don't define you, they're clues. And so it's answering questions that help you to identify some of the things that sometimes you can't put into words. And I don't use just one, I'll use 2 or 3 different ones so that you get, different perspectives and lenses. But the first step is just that willingness to go, who am I? How am I wired? What is my blueprint? What is my design? Because if you don't understand that, it's kind of hard to take it much of anywhere else.
Well, I like that idea that you're using it as a tool, because I think sometimes when people, especially if they take it on their own, they go, oh my goodness, I'm this.
Yes, absolutely. It can become a label. It can become a
Sure.
container or a box, and that's not the intention.
Right. And that's a lot of what I talk about when we talk about the intergenerations. We have these labels that we have out there, boomer and Generation Z and things like that. And one of the things that I talk about is getting away from that, because now you're in a box. So I really like your idea that you use it as a tool. It helps them see themselves better on the outside, but without the kind of the tyranny of oh no, I'm stuck here for the rest of my life because this test said so.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So it looks like when you're helping them understand themselves, and then it looks like you kind of help them find their purpose, and they start moving into their resilience and authenticity. And I think a lot of people don't understand that about themselves. I want to talk a little bit about how you go about helping people move through that as you coach them.
Yeah. And so, I really firmly believe that every one of us has a blueprint and a design. And it's kind of a funny analogy. It's like if I have a can of soup that I want to have opened, I can run over it with a tire on my car and open the can of soup, but it's kind of not usable. Or I can go to a can opener and use the can opener for what it was designed for. And so a lot of us are the same way. We have strengths and weaknesses. We have zones of brilliance or zones of genius, depending on what you want to call it. And what I have experienced in working with hundreds of people at this point is when people find their lane that fits how they're authentically designed and they step into that, that's where flow happens. You're not pushing, striving, you get into that zone of genius, and that's where real life satisfaction happens. And to me, that is one of the key measurements that I use for people is, what is your satisfaction level? Are you passionate? Are you thriving? Are you flourishing? All of those colorful words, but those colorful words are indicators that you're where you're supposed to be. And I spent over 40 years in corporate America as a program and project manager. And so I worked with a lot of different people, a lot of different skill sets, departments, all those kinds of things. And you would see people that were good at their jobs, but they were absolutely miserable. It was not their calling. It was not their passion. And then in complete contrast, you would see people that couldn't wait to get up in the morning and go to work every day because they loved what they did. That's the kind of people you can work with and really help them move forward. And a lot of that is, as you've already said, Dan, it's mindset, it's outlook, it's why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, and that's interesting because my background's also in program and project management. And I also did it for about just as long as you did.
Yep.
And I used to tell people that they'd say, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm the guy who connects the dots."
Yes.
And I once had somebody flippantly said, "Well, what does that make me?" And I said, "Well, you're one of the dots." So, but I like your idea. You're able to, and I saw this also when I was working. How do you bring that, bringing that out with people? How to bring
Mhm.
that out as a leader when you see that? Because obviously, in a work situation is different than sitting with you, constantly as a coach.
Yep. And as a leader, you have to be aware of who's in the room. And that might be a Zoom room, it might be a
Hmm.
literal conference room, even
Sure.
one-on-ones. And in one of the organizations that I worked at, I had a particular project where I had 7 vice presidents that were kind of the directors of this
Hmm.
project. And that many people in general is a challenge, but
Sure.
several of these were very strong personalities. And so, as the facilitator, if you would, of the conversation, it's recognizing the strengths and weaknesses. And it's seeing the person over here on the right that's quiet, but has really great ideas. And it's
Hmm.
intentionally drawing those ideas out. And so, and again, in that situation, there was a couple of different generations. There was the younger upcoming leaders, and there were the
Hmm.
older leaders that had been around for a while. And really trying to achieve balance and letting all of the voices be heard, letting all of the ideas flow rather than allowing one person to dominate. And again, as you know, as a facilitator, sometimes that's really challenging,
Certainly.
especially when those people are higher ranked, if you would, than you are. But you still pick up on the different strengths and weaknesses, the different ideas, and you get to control that flow a little bit. And so again, as a leader myself, I would always be aware before I went into the room, if I could, who is going to speak up, who wasn't, how do you find that balance? So a lot of that, what I look for is balance. And as we talk about getting into the intergenerational leadership, it's the same thing. Your younger people have just as many good ideas as more experienced people, but their approach is going to be a little bit different. Their terminology, some of their words. And so, one of the things I used to do, and we kind of got away from it, was when you bring a diverse group of people together, is actually do a glossary. And it sounds kind of silly, but you'd be surprised how many people use the same word to mean different things.
Certainly.
And
Yeah.
so you get into these conversations where people are talking and using a word, but my thought about that word is A, and your thought about that word is Q. And we're using the same word and we think we're saying the same thing and we're not. And so it is that truly that communication that is so key to all of this.
Well, I like also how you talked about, dealing with the power differentiation, because, the bottom line is if your boss is in the room, it's different.
Yes.
And, being able to, and I think you have probably also found this, that especially with somebody who's newer, they may be a little intimidated,
Hmm.
but also a lot of times they were never asked.
Yes. Yep. And in those situations, I will try to meet with people one on one ahead of
Hmm.
time so that I had some rapport. And I also would get a sense of, is this a quieter but deep person that has really good thoughts that I'm going to have to draw out? Or are they really new enough that they just need to be allowed to listen and learn?
Hmm.
And so understanding individually, and as you're forming a project team, the goal is to get that team to work as a team, right?
Certainly. Yeah.
But each of those individual people, you need to know, what's going to shut them down and what's going to light
Mhm.
them up to allow them to speak. The generations are the same way. You know, a 25-year-old versus a 65-year-old, they both have good ideas and things to contribute, but what keys them to jump in and share their wisdom may be two completely different, if I can use the word, mechanisms. And so
Certainly.
as the leader, you've got to be the one knowing which lever to push and when. And you don't always get it right. But again, it's that over time, you
Mhm.
typically don't have one conversation that is make or break. It's an overtime building.
Certainly, yeah. That's also been my experience. That really finding those points. That's why I used to tell people I'm the guy who connects the dots,
Yes,
because
100%.
those lines matter and they overlap, and people, and also at different times and different parts of the project. One of the things I talk about is the beginner's mind.
Mm,
So somebody who's new a lot of times doesn't even know the questions to ask, much less
yes.
what to do. And have you had the opportunity to, connect them with a mentor within your team, and also to teach that mentor how to learn the other direction?
Yes, and actually, at the last company that I was at, I was the mentor for new people joining our project
Oh,
management
okay.
team.
Right.
And so yeah, I can speak to that from personal experience. And again, you've got, a lot of corporations will hire college graduates that have, no authentic professional experience. They've got the
Hmm.
knowledge, they've got the passion, but they're just getting started. And
Sure.
so, you're in the way you incorporate those younger people is going to be a little bit different than taking a 20-year seasoned person that's just new to the team. And so again, it goes back to understanding the individual and what's going to make them comfortable to contribute and really add their value.
Great. Thank you. So we're going to take a short break, one of our sponsors. And when we come back, um, I'd like you to think about, I wanted to ask you how you tie what we were just talking about with these
Mhm.
intergenerational teams and intergenerational leadership, how you tie back to what you do as a coach to
Mhm.
help people understand that. So we'll be right back after this from our sponsor. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is another episode of Bridging of Ages with my guest, Lysa Beltz. And we were just talking about intergenerational leadership and also how Lysa is able to help people through her coaching in order to achieve this and other things to become their authentic self. Welcome back.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, and so thinking about how taking a professional person and their experience and
Mhm.
bringing that out and strengthening them through coaching, my perspective honestly is every person deserves a coach, not needs but deserves, because
Mhm.
we all have our blind spots, and there's something called the Johari window that we use in coaching. And it basically says there's 4 different quadrants, and there's the you that everybody sees, the you that only you sees, the you that's reserved for friends and family, and then there's kind of this unknown blind spot. And so we all need outside perspective to grow. And whether you're, a corporate executive or you're a developer on a technical project team, everybody has the opportunity. And for me, I use the word responsibility to grow. And so as a personal empowerment coach, what I want to do is help people kind of get past themselves. It's like we are oftentimes our own worst critic. A lot of self-judgment from everybody. And that's true from, CEOs to, anybody that is just coming out of college and stepping into their professional career. We are our own worst critic. And it oftentimes takes that outside coaching perspective to really help you get yourself unstuck, if you would, and to be able to move forward. So a lot of what I do is mindset coaching. And so you mentioned limiting beliefs earlier, and our culture, our families that we grew up in, our, the region of the country, all of those things contribute to our limiting beliefs. And the nature of a limiting belief is that you don't know it's there. And so you think about a computer operating system, right? Your operating system is in the background and it just runs. It what's kind of keeps everything flowing. But that operating system can have limiters or governors. And some of the upgrades that we get over time in different software or your OS is basically enhancing that OS, that operating system. Limiting beliefs can work the same way. It can be a restrictor, and they're oftentimes the things that hold us back that are so unconscious or subconscious, we're not even aware they're there. And again, my experience is it takes an outside person asking the right question to really go, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was a belief I had that's holding me back. That is the power of a coach. I mean, one of the biggest things we do as coaches is ask those penetrating questions that make you unlock those little hidden rooms that really are in the way of you being everything you're designed to be.
Well, that's wonderful because I think a lot of people don't understand it's already inside of ourselves.
Yes.
You help bring it out. I know when I've received some coaching myself, one of the things I found out was that I would never tolerate from somebody else saying the things I say to myself in my own head.
It's true. As I said, we are our own worst critic.
Oh yeah, and it was interesting to open that up and find to go, oh, that's what I'm saying to myself. Those are all
Yeah.
negative thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and if we pick on that thread for just a second, our
sure.
brains think, 80,000 or more thoughts a day.
Uh-huh.
Over time, we become pre-programmed. And so those 80 thoughts are oftentimes recycled. We don't have truly, genuinely new thoughts all the time. And so
Uh-huh.
when you become your own worst critic, that loop plays in your head over and over and over, and it gets ingrained in your brain. And so you have to intentionally change that. You can't wish it to change. You have to make a decision. And the word decide is the Latin word decidere, and it basically means burn the ships. And so it is making a definitive choice to think differently.
Wow, that's very powerful.
It
Yeah,
is,
it's also sounds like getting out of bad habits. You really have to take the effort to break out of them
yes.
and change what
Yeah.
you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And if you listen to Dr. Carolyn Leaf or other people that study the brain and behavior, it's
uh-huh.
not a one-time thing. It's a new habit that you build. It takes time and it takes effort, but it
Uh-huh.
is so worth it. And again, I encourage every one of my clients and everybody that I talk to, be aware of that self-talk because it can either make you or break you.
Yeah, and I like you talk about having somebody outside to help you look at yourself,
Yep. Yep.
to help open
Yep.
that up. And that even links back to the leadership we were talking about. Because as a leader,
100%.
you really need to help people. You got to hold up that mirror sometimes to people
Yeah.
when they're taking the project the wrong direction, or their own self-limiting beliefs are not allowing them to blossom. And but coaching is different than mentoring, and sometimes it's hard to hear that tough love. and
It
uh,
is.
and I like the fact that you have a coach who's doing that for you, as opposed, because let's face it, when it's a boss, it becomes a power differential, and that's a lot harder to hear sometimes.
It
And
is.
especially in today's business world, people are concerned that, oh, this is my last day, so because I
Yeah.
got criticized.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that you're doing that. You're empowering the people who work with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're helping them understand that they communicate maybe differently. But I love the thought that you talked about, exposing those self-limiting beliefs
Yes.
and the power of coaching that allows that to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times we want to give ourselves grace. And so it's really hard sometimes to hold yourself accountable. We
Sure.
can want to, but having that external perspective really makes it stick. That to me is one of the really powerful things of a coach. And a coach helps you look forward and design the life you want to live. That's where we want to take people, is designing the life they want to live that lets them thrive and flourish in their God-given gifts.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for a wonderful, enlightening conversation today.
Glad to
And
be here. Thank you for having me on as a
yeah,
guest.
and I thank you. And we're going to take a short break for a word from one of our sponsors. And then when we come back, we can wrap up and talk about some action items that you can take to move forward with the wonderful perspective that Lysa has been able to give us today. Thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Bridging of Ages. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about intergenerational leadership with my guest, Lysa Beltz. And let's take a look at some of the action items that you can take in order to incorporate some of the things that we talked about today. Action item number 1: work on finding your true identity. As Lysa talked about, you really need to look within yourself and find out what your true calling is, what your true identity is. And she talked about many different ways of doing that and how a coach can be very helpful in that regard. But if you take action and start to look inside yourself and see what you're truly about and what you truly have a passion about, it's going to help you move forward. Action item number 2: understanding your limiting beliefs. And this was really, really important, what Lysa was telling us. We all have limiting beliefs and they keep us back. And if you think about what you talk about inside your own head, I know that I would never tolerate what from other people what I say to myself. And those things limit me every single day. And my limiting beliefs that I think I can't do something or I can't move forward or those kind of things not only limit me, but as a leader will limit how I can lead my team. So it becomes even more important to understand your own limiting beliefs before you help others with theirs. Action item 3. Incorporate integrity into your leadership. People will see your integrity. And that's where you're going to get your resilience. Because if you have your own personal integrity, you've done the work to find your true identity, you've worked on your limiting beliefs. Now you have your own integrity, and that's really important. And I think that projects outwards. I know that when I am working within integrity as a leader of a team, my teammates, the people who are working with me, will see that and feel it. And it helps us work, have better accountability because I have integrity. So our action items, once again, are action item 1, work on finding your true identity. Action item 2, understand your limiting beliefs. And action item 3, incorporate integrity into your leadership. And to leave you with the tip of today, the tip of the day, as a person of integrity, others will follow your lead. And as we talked about, integrity is integral to who you are. And once you have found your true identity and worked on your limiting beliefs and incorporate that integrity, you become a person of integrity and others will follow your lead. This has been another episode of Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Nedelovitz. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can see the QR code in the corner. Invest in brain power, fuel brilliance. Invest in brain power, fuel brilliance.